So one thing about Bob Iger is that we know that he is now in complete damage control mode as well as double down mode to really just try and attempt to fix this movie as much as possible, to lie to the audience, to lie to the public, the shareholders, to just give this movie a chance.
Well, that's not how society is used.
See the other side. What's the dwarf?
Dwarf refers to a person with one of several varieties of a specific genetic condition called dwarfism. A dwarf has disproportionate body parts.
So a midget could be like 3
a
feet
huge
tall.
wang.
Disney is reportedly scaling back on Snow White. This movie is in serious trouble. It's been in production hell forever. And y'all probably know about the controversies because they just keep popping up. They could not make this movie work for the life of them. And now they're trying to bury it.
Is Disney actively trying to bury its own Snow White movie? It sounds like a wild conspiracy theory, right? But the whispers are getting louder, and when you look at the avalanche of negative buzz and downright disappointment surrounding the live-action remake, you start to wonder if something truly unusual is going on behind the scenes at the House of Mouse. This isn't just your typical online grumbling, it's a wave of discontent that's actually impacting Disney's strategic playbook.
Of course, the corporate press, still woke as they are playing this game where they're like, a bunch of toxic people. That's what they're saying in Variety. There is another controversy, and this one's actually kind of funny, and that is most people have been complaining that the evil witch who is jealous of Snow White's beauty is substantially more attractive than Snow White.
From the moment advanced screenings and early reviews began trickling out, something felt off. It wasn't just a few scattered negative comments. It was a rapid escalation of negative sentiment that caught even seasoned Disney observers by surprise. Loyal fans, the kind who've practically grown up with Disney magic, started voicing their concerns. And at the heart of it all was a core issue. This new Snow White seemed to be wandering further and further away from the enchanting path of the beloved 1937 classic, and even the time-honored Brothers Grimm fairy tale. The deeper we dig, the more it feels like we're not just talking about minor tweaks. We're talking about a fundamental shift.
With the 7 politically correct companions, this movie was never gonna make it out.
But opinions are one thing, right? Let's talk numbers, because when the rubber meets the road in Hollywood, it's all about box office projections and ticket sales. And that's where the picture gets even cloudier for Snow White. Reports began surfacing of lagging ticket sales, forecasts that once painted a rosy picture suddenly being drastically dialed back. And then came the images, the stark, almost haunting photos of deserted theaters, empty rows, primetime slots completely vacant. It wasn't just underperforming. Some started using terms like hilariously abysmal and even coining the phrase wokebuster to describe its cinematic fate. Suddenly, the whispers of trouble turned into a deafening silence in the very places where Disney movies are supposed to shine.
Here's a story from Variety. Disney scales back Snow White Hollywood premiere amid Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot controversies. Now, this is the lighter headline, because I could have gone with, why is Disney burying Snow White?
Now, you might think, okay, maybe the fans are upset, but surely the critics, the supposed gatekeepers of cinematic taste, would offer a more balanced perspective. Well, buckle up, because even that historically reliable base of support seems to have soured on Disney. For years, Disney could almost bank on friendly reviews, critics who would at the very least give their projects the benefit of the doubt. But with Snow White, we're seeing a significant shift. Critics who once praised Disney's live-action ventures are now sounding frankly exasperated. They're openly calling out the film's perceived failings, pointing fingers at everything from story cohesion and how far it veers from the source material to the overall execution. It's a critical U-turn that's hard to ignore.
Disney is hosting a Hollywood premiere of Snow White on March 15th, but the studio won't be rolling out a robust red carpet. That's right, the premiere is just, don't tell anybody, they have to do it. Now, instead of casting a woman whose skin was white as snow to play Snow White, which is why she was called Snow White, they cast a Latina, a swarthy individual, meaning olive skin and darker hair, Rachel Zegler.
And what exactly are these critics and fans so riled up about? Let's get into the heart of the controversies, and it starts with casting and narrative choices. One of the biggest lightning rods has been the decision to cast a Latina actress, Rachel Zegler, as Snow White. Now, it's not about the actress herself, but the character of Snow White. The very name, Snow White, evokes an image, a description, skin as white as snow. This casting choice for some felt like a deliberate departure, a break from the established image. image. But it goes deeper than just casting. Many argue that the narrative itself has been reshaped, some say even betrayed. They feel crucial elements of the original fairy tale have been jettisoned, replaced by what they perceive as corporate agendas or ideologies that simply don't resonate with the timeless charm of the original.
Not only do we have this video from Not the Bee, where they're scrolling through the website and all of the seats are basically available, nobody's seeing the movie. Take a look at this from Daily Mail. Snow White and the Empty Cinemas. Embarrassing photos show deserted theaters with no bookings in primetime slots as Woke Buster becomes hilariously abysmal. So here you can see somebody filmed a video. We don't need any of that audio.
Adding another layer of, shall we say, unintended irony is a controversy that's almost funny in a dark comedy kind of way. Many viewers have been pointing out that the evil queen, the character driven by jealousy of Snow White's beauty, is in this new film perceived as substantially more attractive than Snow White herself. Think about that for a second. The core motivation of the villain, her envy of Snow White's beauty, is undercut, even flipped on its head in the eyes of many viewers. It's a seemingly superficial complaint perhaps, but it speaks volumes about character portrayal and audience perception. It almost feels like a symptom of a larger disconnect, a lack of understanding of what made the original story so enduring.
So many people here to watch Snow White. To be fair, this clip right here actually was from a video where they show the screen and then show the audience is empty. Here's Kang Min Lee saying, opening Friday night for Disney's Snow White in IMAX. Only one person bought a ticket. Dude, this is crazy.
And how has Disney responded to all this? Well, their damage control playbook seems to be in full swing, but instead of directly addressing the criticisms, they appear to be deflecting, framing negative feedback as politically motivated or, dare we say, disingenuous. It's like they're painting anyone who dislikes the film as having some ulterior agenda, rather than acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, longtime fans, general audiences, and even critics simply find the film lacking. This approach has created an almost adversarial us versus them dynamic, where Disney seems to be positioning itself against its own audience. And the clearest sign of potential panic? The Hollywood premiere. Yes, there is a premiere scheduled, but it's being scaled back, almost whispered about. It's like they're going through the motions, fulfilling obligations, but hoping nobody really notices.
She continued celebrating herself by posting that she's in the #1 movie in the world, which is a remarkable thing to post when you are the laughingstock of an entire industry. This is what narcissism looks like. Narcissism for 200.
Then there's the curious case of Rachel Zegler's social media activity. Amidst all this swirling negativity, she posted about being in the #1 movie in the world. Now, while technically true at a very specific moment, the timing and tone felt off. Some interpreted it as tone deaf, even narcissistic. It certainly fueled the already raging social media firestorm. Memes, hashtags, reaction videos dissecting every change, every perceived misstep went viral. This online outcry wasn't just contained to niche fan groups. It bled into mainstream entertainment coverage, further accelerating the decline in interest. It became a self-perpetuating cycle of negativity that Disney seemed powerless to stop.
Theaters are, of course, entirely empty. Do understand that having people buy tickets is an important part of success in your industry. And it is actually so bad that Rachel Zegler decided to post a video of herself in a theater. Maybe I think she bought that ticket right there.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room: diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. Now, nobody is arguing against the importance of representation in modern film. Fresh perspectives, roles that speak to a broader audience. These are valuable and important goals. However, the complaints surrounding Snow White often center on how these elements are implemented. Many feel the DEI messaging in Snow White feels forced, not organically woven into the story. It's as if the primary goal became delivering a lesson rather than telling an engaging story, and when audiences sense that, they tend to push back, especially when it feels like it comes at the expense of coherent storytelling and loyalty to the original tale's essence. This perception of a forced narrative has only worsened the film's reception, solidifying the image of Snow White as, for some, an agenda piece.
Decided to film herself in a theater totally empty, giggling, tee-hee-heeing with total glee.
So is Snow White just one isolated misstep, or is it a symptom of a larger trend within Disney? Looking at the broader picture, it's hard to ignore the pattern. Snow White isn't the only recent Disney project to underperform, to face criticism. Big budget sequels, spin-offs, some have simply failed to meet expectations. It begs the question, is there a systemic issue at play? Are we seeing a disconnect between Disney's creative direction and what audiences genuinely want? Snow White, in this context, becomes more than just a single film. It becomes emblematic of a tension, a clash between tradition and newer priorities. And as Disney grapples with this controversy, the big question remains, will they pivot? Will they listen to the growing chorus of criticism? Or will they double down, insist all is well, and risk further erosion of the very magic that built their empire? This storyline, as they say, is far from over. We'll be watching closely to see what happens next and what the long-term consequences will be, not just for this movie, but for the legacy of Disney's most treasured fairy tales.
Look at this. Look at this face. What can be said about this level of narcissism? Here, please. The bliss of total stupidity and narcissism. Look at the bliss. On some level, it's got to be a blessing to just be so smooth-brained